revolutionary. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary. I am a revolutionary.
They may take our lives, but they'll never take our freedom!
Where there's people, there is power. Justice in our time. Good evening, everyone. Another episode of Equal Start. Today we're going to be discussing about the social care crisis and why this generation feel it's suitable to be putting their parents in homes, which me personally I don't agree with, especially if you've had a good relationship prior to old age or infirmity or disability. And I'm wanting to ask my esteemed guest today, Auntie Jenny. She's back. Miss Big Auntie Jenny, you chastised that tape, brother, years ago. You see? And my old colleague Adrian, he used to be fair, he used to trim me as well. When I had hair, he used to trim me, he used to give me nice stars. And he used to support my events when I used to do Utopia and Cryptasian Nights. So, what do you think about all this? We're going to start with you, Auntie. What do you think about this social care crisis and people putting their parents in care homes where even though their parents have been good to them previously?
Well, I had an aunt who died in a care home. My mother, they got put into a care home. And with my mum, it was against her wishes because she had it in her LPA that she was never supposed to be put in a care home. But it's like, people are just so quick to say, yeah, you're going to go in the home. The police are like, yeah, we're going to put your mum in the home. You'll see when you go in the home. Social service is like, yeah, well, we're going to put in the home. And I'm thinking, what you got the LPA there for? You know? You complain to the legal power of guardian. It's like, now they're not supposed to do that. It's on their paperwork, but nobody don't want to accept nothing. So they put her in the home. Why? Money. I think it's all about money. I think the people that put them in the home, regarding it was my siblings, it's about money. And for everybody else, it's a business. Because I can't see how a woman can go in a care home and, she had a blister in her foot. And then, less than a month later, she's having her foot chopped off. She's dead from a blister.
Yeah, I know. I had only that had one of the emaciated leg, and she died
up to now. But she went in. She walked in there with 2 good legs, trying to get the care plan to see how they looked after her. But I think it's all about money. And one thing you said, when you said, if you had a good relationship. Sometimes these old people, they think they got a good relationship with their family or their siblings, right? Because my mom only had one son. And you would think that, she got one son, they got a good relationship. It looked like a good relationship. But you don't know what's in the other person's mind.
Yeah, that's true.
They're thinking this person's getting old, I'm going to be nice to them, when they're going to dead soon, they're going to leave me some money. That's the way I see it. So nobody don't do, when you see somebody, put them in a home. I always, because my aunt, when she died in a care home, apparently they put her she was in a chair. She must have fell asleep. They forgot to put her in her bed. When they woke up, she was on the floor dead, fell out the chair. Right? Nobody knows how long she was there. I ain't heard about what happened since. But when you got people and you got, what they don't realize is that you are going to go and pay a care home to look after your parents. Or the government, you got to end up selling your house to look after, to pay the government. I don't understand why people don't take that same money, have somebody in the house to look after your family, in their own home, where they can do what they like. I loved my bathroom. I loved my bathroom. I had to get my bathroom changed around for my mom. Get a shower door that don't slide, get one that pushes, because she'd always break it, pushing the door because she didn't realize it it's on a, it just pulls to one side. And it was a lot easier to have carers come in, because my mom ain't going nowhere. When she went going nowhere, So the money that you're going to spend and put your family in the care home, invest it in your house, invest it in their home. I'm going to speak about got my family. Well, we all know somebody. You can even bring people from back home. and pay them to be a carer. If you can't find a carer here, you can say, well, it's because of the social background, our culture, whatever. You can do that or find somebody,
Mm.
to live in. There's lots of people saying they want places to live now. Get someone to live in the house with the person. It's all far too easy. And the money that you're paying these people could give somebody a good rent. You get putting a roof over their head, have them in your home. But your home could be adapted. I don't think the home are giving that personal touch, because I know that for me, even though my mum lived at my house, it was a lot. So she used to go to clubs. I found some good clubs where they used to pick her up like 3 times a week and take her. That was time for me and that was time for her.
Mm.
She absolutely loved it. But to take somebody out of their comfort zone, out of their home, where they're comfortable, and then put them somewhere where there's none of their possessions around them, where there's nobody around there that they really know on a level, where there's nothing familiar, the smells are not familiar. Nah.
Mm.
But it's all about money. It's a business.
True.
So all them old
Yeah,
people out
definitely.
there, because we always say, "Oh, get an LPA, it protects you." It only protects you if they want to protect you, because the LPA don't do nothing as far as I'm concerned. You always say it's like a will's for when you're living, an LPA is for when you're dead, but they just have it for something to do. That's another business.
Yeah. It's sobering still. The sobering thought. But to be fair, I've seen, for instance, I've got an early neighbor. I think I've told you about her before, Aunt Jenny. Um, Me and my wife used to do a lot of kind of, because we're close, we're right near, and her daughters are quite far away. One of the daughters is in Sussex, one's in Tottenham, so they couldn't always get down to her when she needed to take to the hospital or like Moorfield eye appointments and things like that. And obviously the general companionship and taking her out to eat and things. So we used to
Yeah.
do a lot of that, especially before the lockdown. But then I noticed when she got to a certain age and she had a couple of falls and we moved a bit further away, so I wasn't able to see her like more than once a week. They started to complain about, oh, you missed when she fell over and you're supposed to be thinking. I said, yeah, but I said, I phoned you. And sometimes I phone and she don't answer. So I know that if you don't ring back, there's not really a big problem. So, but yeah, she got a bit bright with me about, oh, well, we were counting. He said, look, we're not official carers. We do it out of love of our heart and the compassion and obviously the relationship we developed with her over like a 10-year period. But I said, don't you think since she's in this flat with stairs, even though it's not that it's only 2 floors, don't you think you've got spare room at home that you can put her in? You told me to say that, Rasta. They were like, what? I said, yeah, but you driving all the way from East Sussex to come and care for her, like do a
Mm.
shopping every 2 weeks, hoovering thing. So instead of you having all that stress to come all the way from Sussex, why didn't you just put her where you are? So I took it on myself to try and get her somewhere else in the Clarion on the ground floor. They turned around and said, "Oh well, without the daughter's permission, you can't do that." But at the time, the younger sister was saying, "Yeah, Sean, I think you should because I don't like the way my older sister did it with her." I said, "Nah, that's a family problem. I'm not getting involved in none of that." So I kind of dialed back, which the elder sister didn't like. So what she did do now, she's got her like kind of home help, and there's someone else that lives near us now that goes around every day. But I realized the other day, the lady told me how they're paying him. They're
Yeah,
paying him
they're
to go
gonna do
there and
it. Yeah.
think. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, but I said, yeah,
But
but he's
they would
retired.
pay them, but they wouldn't pay you. They
No,
wouldn't
no, I
pay
didn't
your
want
son.
thing. No, because she said,
No, but they wouldn't say like, "Oh, when you go, we give you petrol and anything like that." Because one thing that stuck out to me when you was talking is that we're talking on a Zoom call. All of us on a Zoom call. We're all over the place. I had cameras all over the house with my mom,
yeah,
inside the house. Even if I wasn't even at home and I was outside and then my mom moved, I had it can set that the alarm went off. She hated the alarm. But I could have looked at my phone and say, "Hey, what you doing?" And she knew that I had cameras all over the house.
mm,
At the moment they got these things like, let me show you. Like
okay,
so the alarms. So that if anything happens, you're at home on your own, you can press it.
yeah.
They will
When they fall down, yeah, she had one to a landline connected to a landline. I saw that still.
and they will get and they will come out and they will help you. So when people are saying they can't, I mean, I'm not gonna say like have them in your house because that's hard. So it's easy people saying, "Oh, have this person in your house," but especially if you're not related to them, if you're an outsider, because it's different having somebody living in your house.
Mm.
So I'd always say, make every adjustment. Don't have them in your house, but make every adjustment in the house that you're in. Do you know what I mean? They got cameras. They've got a I should have brought it over here. They've got this looks like a tablet kind of thing. I think it's by Facebook or Google, one of them companies. I don't know.
Mm.
And you can hook it up to WhatsApp. The person don't have to touch it to answer it. You can set it up so that, and it tracks them as they walk around the room.
Okay, okay.
And I had one for my mom. So I'd call her and I say, she goes, "I can hear you in my house. Where are you?" You know, and she knew. And she just comes, she goes, "Oh, that's you again, listening." I said, "No, I just put it on because I can hear you. I want to know what you're doing." And I hear her around the house and I'd call her and she'd come and talk to me. And as she's doing what she's doing, it's still moving around. So people need to use technology. You don't need to be there with somebody. You
Mm.
know, even when it comes to like, I don't go shopping, I can do my shopping online, you know. And when my mum was alive, we had some really good people delivering the shopping from the big
Okay.
supermarkets. There's one Jamaican guy in particular. He was working for one company delivering parcels. The next one I know he's delivering shopping. He said, "When I saw that address, I knew it was you." And when you're when I get the shopping, because I get shopping delivered to old people, and I tell them the delivery man's supposed to take it into your kitchen. A lot
Mm.
of people don't realize that. You're old, tell him to bring it into your kitchen. If he won't phone me and let me talk to them, because and we've never had a problem.
Mm.
We've never had a problem. And you can have cameras. You got the doorbells with cameras, but you can have cameras in your house. You have monitors to make. You have baby monitors, so you want to have adult monitors, and that's what the cameras are.
It's true. It's true. I think with them, because I don't know if it's, I can't say it's the age because obviously you know all the technology, but
I think it's lack
I
of
don't think they wanted to
education.
invest in that. Or yeah, you're right. I don't think they knew about her connecting to WhatsApp. And to be fair, this neighbor, she's got an analog phone. She got like them old school. It's not a smartphone,
Now
so
you
I
cannot.
don't
My
think
mum
she can
had an
take time with
up-to-date
that.
phone, and that's what because I used to volunteer for age. It was age concerned, and now it's Age UK. And I used to volunteer for them because even my mum, she had a phone. You know, you always see the old people swiping. You stop all that. You put the accessibility on, and all you got to do is say, "Call so and so," and the phone will just call.
You see,
And that's
you're
on
more up
every.
to school. You're more up to date than I am. Funny
That's on
enough,
the phone that you got.
Chloe's joined. Chloe's joined everyone. Say hello, Chloe.
Hi, Chloe. She got a bit of bright
Hi
lights.
guys, sorry for my
No,
lateness.
that's all right. So, Chloe, we was talking earlier with Auntie Jenny and Adrian about the social care crisis and the why children feel they can put their parents in homes these days, even when they've had a reasonable relationship or the parents have grown them up to be well-rounded adults. Do you think it's a case of lack of conscience, or you think because of money, or they want to have their own time, and they're thinking, "Oh, I don't want to have to look after their elderly parents because I've got children, or I want to live my life." Which one do you think it is?
I think it's all of the above, if I'm honest. But I don't think I think it's all of the above, but outside of that, I think what's lacking is the foundation and the teachings of like the natural order of things. So like for me, I'm 36, right? I'm the first child of my parents.
Hmm.
I'm the first of three, and I'm the first grandchild of nine.
Okay.
Now, my mum is the eldest child of four. So when it comes to like my grandmother, I was always around her from young. Like I've grown up being around her. Um, and that kind of just carried on into adulthood. So like now that my grandma is very elderly and ill and stuff like that, I do for her more than some of her children.
Okay.
So she doesn't live in a care home. She lives in like a bungalow, but it's kind of like it's in like a communal, like a community area, but she has her own home. And there's like a schedule that my mum and my aunts have. So everybody has like an allocated day to go to my grand's to bring her food, to bring her dinner, to spend time with her. So my grandmother sees somebody every single day, a family member every single day, right? Um, and I took on one of those days, even though I'm the grandchild. I've taken one of those days on, and sometimes I'm there more than her own children. But that's because of the relationship that my mum and my dad made sure that I established with my gran from very young.
Okay.
So I feel like because of that, and because of the respect that I have for elders, and because I've been raised that way, when the time comes for my mum and my dad to be in that position, that's a no-brainer. I'm gonna naturally be that way anyway because that's how I've been raised. And so like even with my dad, he's diabetic and he's got like mobility issues. And I'm at my dad's all the time, like
Mm,
24/7, um, to the point where he's sick of me. He's like, Chloe, can you go home, please?
mm,
I'll bring him food, I'll bring him
Mm.
whatever. And I realize my other siblings are not like that. My other my cousins and stuff, they're not like that with my grandmother. And
mm,
so I feel like it comes from your parents. Your parents are the ones that kind of your first teachers and teach you how to kind of like have respect for the elders. And like I'm quite old soul anyway, so I've always kind of liked being around older people and listening to their stories and stuff like that. But I feel like as the generations go on, I feel like there's more of a disconnect. There's a disconnect, that's the bridge between those generations are getting wider.
mm,
And I feel like it's the parents' responsibility to ensure that that foundation is always there. So like my son is 10 years old. I have one child, he's 10, and he is always with me when I go to see my grandmother,
mhm,
whether he likes it or not. And he'll sit with her and he'll talk to her, he'll comb her hair. Um, and he has a really good relationship with her. And so I'm instilling something in him that he's not even aware of. So by the time he becomes my age, it's gonna have the same effect that it had on me when I was growing up, you know what I mean? And I feel like that's being lost a lot. And it's a cultural thing, you know what I mean? Like it's a cultural thing back home.
mm.
We don't put our parents and our grandparents in homes and stuff. That's like a westernized thing
Mm.
that we've kind of adopted,
Yeah, of course it is.
which
Mm,
is not natural to us as Africans and Caribbeans. So it's just something that we've adopted being over here. But um I hate it and I think it's wrong personally.
don't you think
Especially if
part of
you're
it's due to your character though, and your conscience? Because some people, I've seen them where they said, "Listen, we've got a family unit. This is what we stand for. This is our ideals." And you're seeing, I've done this, and then the link in the chain gets broken, and then so wait a minute, but your mum done that for her mother and grandmother, and how come you're not doing it? I've got to live my life. That their time's
yeah,
different. So I think conscience and
Mm.
character does play a part as well.
it does. That's why I said
Mm,
all of the above.
mm,
But yeah, I agree with you. I think it does. And it's sad because I feel like when you get to a certain age, it's almost like you're like the forgotten generation.
mm,
Mm.
And
mm,
I think that's such a horrible thing. Because our parents and our grandparents, they're the reason we are who we are today. You know what I mean? Like
mm. You wouldn't be here without
so
them. Mm.
it's yeah. So that's my take on it.
And Adrian, what do you think? Have you had any experience of that?
You mean like
Yeah, or for
what?
anyone that you've seen where you think, oh, wait a minute, how comes they don't look after their grandparents or their parents when in the care home? Or
Uh,
they've taken them in and said, yo, come and live with me.
you know what? I don't know too many people now that is going through that sort of situation at the moment.
Mm,
But in my case, I would say my dad, when he had his stroke, that's when I realized that wow, this is a different season. That's
mm,
almost 17 years ago. My dad passed away this July, and I just instinctively wanted to look after my dad. when he was ill
Mm.
because of my whole life he looked after me. He looked after me
You see?
from when I was
Yeah.
little till I'm 29 years old. That's when he died when I was 29.
Yeah.
That was 2008. But my mum had a lot to do with when he got ill. My mum's a nurse, and she was always like giving me instructions on what to do. She was like telling me what to do, and I had to go. Like I was trying to live. You see how she's just explained the generation. There's a disconnect. I didn't have that. I didn't have that disconnect because I was raised with my mum and dad from right from Africa to into England, from
Mm.
Africa to England, and I've just been always around them. So, but I think when I was younger, I was doing my own thing. I was running around doing my own thing, and then I realized when he got ill, that's when I realized how much I really care about my parents. Like I
Mm.
just couldn't. I just there was no second thought. Oh, is that what I'm gonna do? No, I just knew straight away that I have to be there for my dad. I just knew straight away because of the relationship that
Mm.
we've had from the early years. But like some of my friends and that some of my friends like they say things like they got two parents that are still alive. They will have two parents still alive, but they don't. Some of my friends, they don't talk to their dad. Some of them do not. They don't even have a relationship with their dad at all. None. They
Mm.
like "What, my dad. They don't even, bro. They don't even have their dad's phone number, bro.
Is.
They don't even have their dad's phone number, and I can't. I can't judge them because I realized that when they were young, their dad it weren't the same like when I was young.
Mm.
When I was young, my dad was there for me. It's a Nigerian man, and it's there for me from when I'm young. So he's not. But you see, when I've become an adolescent, is that what you call it? Adolescent,
Adolescent. Yeah.
Adolescent.
Teenagers. Mm.
adolescent, because from age 11, that's when I grew up in London. From age of 11, so when I started like changing from that 11-year-old into that young teenager, he that's where the that's where I changed as a person. He didn't keep up with me. He didn't keep up with me because he's from old school
Mm.
Nigerian old school. And the way when I was growing up in Nigeria, that's when he really had his that's when his input really he was there, and he was there for me throughout them times. But I've come to London, that's where the ship just kind of changed, and that's where the mindset the
They're
mindset just
giving
kind of
too many
changed for me
laws.
as a male child because I had to fit into London's type of way. You know what I mean?
Mm.
Like haircuts, everything's changing now. Haircuts are changing now. Mum, dad, daddy, and daddy didn't get it, bruv.
Mm.
My dad was like, "What you thought?" My dad wanted me to have 1960s haircut from. That's what he wanted, bruv.
Mm.
But I get it. I kind of get it. He was old school. He wasn't a young father. He was a youngish father. Yeah, he's from the 1960s and 70s, bro.
Mm.
My dad would have been in his 80s. He would have been like 80, 83 if he was alive now.
Mm.
So, but I think with me, I definitely lost some of the thing. What's that thing called? So I don't know how you say it, man.
Just
If I
lost your
didn't come to
heritage.
London, if I didn't come to London, yeah, I'll be more of a very well-grounded human being. I'll be more well-grounded, know what to do as a family man, have this going on, have that going on, and all of that. But London, it's not like that. It's all
That
different.
makes
It's all different cultures here. It's all different ones here, isn't it?
Mm.
Yeah, there's not no responsibility. Like I should be married now. It ain't happened. Ain't happened. Ain't
That's you
happened,
say
bro.
that's increasing. That's going up. That's going up. Less people
Yeah,
get
because
married. Mm.
the state of mind, yeah, it's Americanized. It's just not. It's just not. It's like the family thing. And for me. I think I'm quite. I think I'm decent. I think I'm a broken jar that got put back together. I'm that jar that fell off the shelf and it broke, but it still had. It's still there was the pieces. You could find all the pieces, and then you could still what's the word? You could still glue them back together.
Mm.
That family thing, that mindset of that family man, that person. But some people I know, they're like their pieces is like they don't know where it is. They don't remember that. They don't remember. They're like, "What are you talking about, my dad? Who's my dad? I don't chat to my dad. This is some females telling me this.
Mm.
They tell me I don't chat to my dad. My dad don't do nothing for me. My dad's this and that." I said, "So wait." I said to her, "If your dad was to pass away, right? Would you turn up to? Would you go and care and that?" Their reply was shocking to me, bro. Their reply was like, it's like they don't even care, bro. So I don't think some people, if their dad went to a home to a care home, they I don't I think some people they won't care at all
Yeah,
because
cool. But
they
you
don't
get that in
care.
every generation, to be fair. You get that in every
But there
Yeah,
was
generation.
that said that there are more men are in care homes than women, or
Yeah,
more
there
men are
is.
in care homes.
Yeah,
but for
definitely.
me,
That's
from
one
what
thing I
my
saw
dad
the
did
other
for
day.
me when I was growing up, I had to give him that. I had to give him the respect for me because he definitely did a lot for me in my young years. And then when I got to London, he brought me here. I would say he didn't know the environment he was bringing me in.
Mm.
My mum and dad, I don't think they knew what I was gonna turn out. They didn't know that there was gonna be so many challenges and changes and things were not gonna be to how they had planned it because they had a big plan for their son, for their children from their generation. That generation, my mum and dad's generation is about marriage, marriage, children, then the family. The family is very important in their vision. But my mum says to me till this, like my mum, if she used to get sick now, I would not ignore her. I would not put her in a. If my mum got sick now, because I've only got mum now, my dad's passed away
Mm.
almost 17 years. Yeah, so in my memories, I'm glad that of what I did when he was sick, because when he was sick, I was helping him. I was doing the cleaning, the hair cutting.
Yeah. No, thanks, Adrian. He brought us some great points, like the young lady before. And one thing I realized, the most important thing was the difference between those who were raised back home and came and went compared to those who were born here and those who have more influences from where they come from. Do you get what I mean? Because you will find that when the young lady was talking, she was saying that she brought up her grandparents. This is how she was brought up. She is brought up with those old traditions, like you and your dad when you come over. And then when you
Yeah,
come over to England, all of a sudden everything changes. So if it's changing for somebody like you that's come over, imagine those that are born here. And I realized those are the differences between my siblings and I, because they're the ones that put my mum in a home. My mum died, right? They're the ones that put my mum in a home against her wishes. And I always thought to
mm,
myself, how can you do that now that you murder your parents? You know what I mean? And then
mm,
from talking to you, I realized because I was there, I was the sort of girl that I was raised with my grandmother. Used to go to Barbados. My grandmother lived in Barbados. I was there. I used to love spending time with my grandmother. But then I noticed the change, I noticed the change. So when I noticed the change, right? Because don't forget, even though my son's been back and everything, he's born here, even like me, right? I know what I decided to do when I get my house. People are like, oh, do you need the handrails? Yeah, I need, because I'm disabled now. I got the handrails. I took out the bath. I got in. I got all the aids from now. The latest thing I want to get is a stair lift. Everything that I can possibly get. When I became ill, my son said to me, "Oh, mum, why don't you move back down to London? Let me look after you." I said, "Look after me." Nah, mate. I ain't got to that age yet. I don't need you to look after me. You go and you live your life. And I realized because
mm,
it's a different era. He's English.
There's a different yeah, definitely.
He's English. And if my brother, who was my mum's only son, can put her into a home, and that was my mum's only son, and his dad had died, so that's his only. He only had his mother left because he got married to some stupid woman that her ideas were so modern that she didn't want my mum in the house at all.
Mm.
You know, she the reason why my mum got put into a home because my brother's wife didn't want her there, and he backed up his wife.
Yeah.
And I realized it's a different era. So no, I ain't giving my son the chance. No, look after me. I ain't got to that stage yet. I have got everything in place
To be able to
so that
manage
I can
yourself.
be looked after in my own home.
Mm.
All the aids, because I'm disabled now, innit? So things only get worse. You know, I'm making sure I got all the aids and everything because I'm not relying on the government. I'm not relying on my son. I'm not
Mm.
relying on nothing. I take out my
Mm.
bathroom and I put in a wet room. This
Mm.
take out the stairs and I put in a ramp. And people
Mm.
are asking me why you put when I got the money, I'm putting in a ramp because I'm gonna need it anyway.
Mm.
So I don't want no surprises. Like my mum's wish was never to put in a home. And she was just shocked and devastated that they actually took her and put her in. That was the end of her when they put her into a home. So I thought, nah, make sure I got everything in my house. That's why I was saying when I showed the alarm. And that's what I say when people think about putting their parents in homes. My mum lived with me and it wasn't always easy. And a lot of people, oh yeah, I'd look after them. No, look after them in their own home. Get all the aids that you can get. All the stair lifts, the alarms, the cameras,
Mm.
take out the bar, put in the shower. I would say do all of that before you bring them into your house. Because sometimes if you bring somebody like that into your house and you're not ready or your relationship's not stable, you can
Mm.
mash up your relationship.
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
You
I've
know,
seen that
so it's
too.
what everybody's saying, have your parent in your house. But not only that, when these people get old, get cantankerous, they get Alzheimer's, or you know what I
Mm.
mean?
Mm. Mm. But saying you
Yeah.
say that, did you see? So I mentioned it in the group. You see when
Mm.
the police killed that 90, was he 92? Tasered him and he had like a heart complications after that and he died a few days later. For me, something like that is mad because they knew he was having he's had Alzheimer's, so he's having an episode
Yeah.
and he
Mm.
couldn't get out of the chair, yet they tasered him. And when he had a
You see,
butter knife, see things like that
Wow.
now, I get steamed.
the thing is, when you say one, you got to say two, as they say, right? And that's what I said about getting prepared. Even now, if you look in my car, I got my mum's old badge that said I got from the RNIB, a bright yellow badge saying partially
Mm,
sighted.
mm,
You know what I mean? She had a medical alert to
mm,
say that she's got dementia.
mm,
You know, even me, when I travel, I've got my one for fibromyalgia. I've got all
mm,
my ones. So it's like what they're doing is not right, and you got to combat that somehow. Make your disability as visible as possible.
mm. No, it was in
You know
care
what I
home,
mean?
Auntie. It was in the care home. He wasn't even at home. He was in the care home. He was sitting there. He's like in a wheelchair. He couldn't even stand up, and he was going like this. If I see in the video, he's going like this, and he said, "Put it down, put it down." He's like, and then he kind of thing, and then they come there, said, "Pull it right down, right now." And there was a male and female officer. The man tasered him. The man couldn't even get out of the chair. He was nowhere near in his vicinity to stab him with the knife. And
Well,
it was a butter knife. He sharpened it up a bit, but it wouldn't have been fatal. And remember, they got that kind of vest on, stab-proof vest. So
Mm.
it was way over the top, way over the
you
top.
know, I feel about that like how I feel when they
Mm.
expel special needs kids from school.
Mm,
You know, the police had no right going in there because if he's in a care home and he's an LD person, and they should be able to control him. If they shouldn't,
mm,
they should have got him moved to another facility. I
mm.
think for you to call the police for somebody that's in a wheelchair, you got issues. You're
See,
not capable
Cow,
because
joke.
there's
Yeah, of course,
no
he's a joke police
way.
officer. He's a joke officer.
Mm.
And that woman as well. She's a devil. I thought the
No,
woman
I'm
has more
talking about the
compassion.
person. I'm talking about the people that called the police officers.
Yeah, yeah, they're not good either. Because how can
They
you not manage someone that
they
is
were the
92?
first to blame because you're in a wheelchair
Mm,
and you can threaten somebody in a wheelchair. It's not even an electric wheelchair like you can say, oh, I'm gonna run you
mm,
over. Do you know what
mm,
I mean? You're in a wheelchair. From the time the home is calling the police for somebody in a wheelchair, they failed. They
I agree.
failed straight away.
I agree.
That's like when they have special needs children. They got special needs children in like special schools and they start expelling them. You can't expel a special needs child from a special needs school. You failed. That's what you're there for. That's what you're trained for.
I
You know.
agree.
So if you're gonna call somebody for a man in a wheelchair in a care home, that you can outrun, that you can outmaneuver, you have failed.
Mm.
Mm.
So Kingsley, fine enough, because you've been quiet. Um, any experience with all that? I know your parents are still mobile and lucid, so and you maybe your grandparents or uncle and auntie. You feel this generation is too selfish to look after their parents or their grandparents, or you think it's just the way it goes because we're over here in Europe and we've become more
It's
Eurocentric?
it's a difficult thing to say because um if I start with my experience, I can't really say there's a lot. Um so as it pertains to my grandmothers, they were looked after
Okay,
as far as I could tell, but they never lived here.
okay. Yeah, see,
So
so you're a proper Igbo man. You still had the
there's
proper
no
cultural
there's
thing.
no there's no um the thing that being said though, I think that you may be able to pass a set of values and principles down to each generation, down from generation to generation, but how each generation handles it will be different.
Mm,
It's as simple as that, as far as I'm concerned. Um, Unfortunately, um, the lot that we've been dealt in this time is such that people are so occupied with their own maintenance because they're barely able to their keep their own hands on the pulse, let alone go and look after their loved one. And so there's a thorough disconnect that I'm
mm,
seeing all across the board,
mm,
you know.
mm,
Um, and I think there's also the dilemma of having to look after someone, but then it gets to a point where you're looking after that person, but then you're now having to live for them, and particularly in our community or in more specific terms, some African communities, that can be very overbearing for the young person that is expected. And that's the key word, expectations,
mm,
you know. Now, I think that what Aunt Jenny has said with regards to just saying, look, I'm still in a position where I'm fortifying myself is very profound in that respect because she's setting a standard that not many people in our community have necessarily come to terms with yet. You know, this whole
mm,
thing of Negro do this and Negro do that.
mm,
It can't fly in every household, but
mm,
unfortunately, we're seeing that unfold in a number of places. And this is what gives way to a certain level of contempt, which results in detachment.
mhm.
And then that detachment lasts until the passing of that person from whom the child has been detached from.
True.
So, um, as far as the care system is concerned, and I speak in a broader sense regarding most things regarding the system, a lot of the stuff is outdated.
Mm,
and how they're not keeping up. A lot of the things are outdated, and that's why we have the ammunition to say things. Because there are one or two odd things here and there which will say, okay, this Western system they've done pretty good. But a lot of their concepts are very outdated, and this is what's giving um, a lot of people in working in the care homes the excuse to just throw their weight around and do a lot of nasty things. And so obviously, as with the system, even though the system is changing because of the this new industrial revolution we're seeing emerge, it's not necessary. We It can be argued that it's not necessarily for the better,
Hmm. Yeah,
but
it's
it's
true. Yeah,
something
you're right.
that is also, in my view, an inevitable um, aspect of time moving and life conspiring.
Okay.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Your video gone thing.
I'm still here. What's up?
Is your mic?
Is it my? Let me
Yeah,
check.
yeah, yeah. You've gone faint. You've gone
Says
faint.
Mike.
Your volume's
I
dropped.
think I think I've said what I wanted to say, to be honest. So
Okay.
that's
All right.
what probably why I've gone
So,
silent.
so you remember we discussed as we were earlier with the gentleman that was killed in the care home, the one that
Hmm.
was had dementia and was wielding a butter knife against the police officers last week.
Yeah.
Or was it last week or the week before? Yeah.
Mhm.
What do you think about that? You think the care home had failed by having to call the police, and that led to him being tasered, and that resulted in his death?
I think I'm gonna go with what Aunt Jenny said earlier.
Mm,
Um, the person who called them, they've something's gone wrong with their thinking and with their handling of the matter.
mm,
But it's like a domino effect. It's essentially the one of the many um, products of the whole system not being no longer um, fit for function,
mm,
and and what we see is a whole system failing, but then we don't see it until a lot of incidents happen. So it's like a pack of cards just when you see the pack of cards tumble, all the cards spread across the floor of the table.
mm. True, true. But I think we still have to do better. Still have to do better. But obviously, it's always nuance when it comes to looking after parents that maybe you never got along with when they were alive, or there had been previous abuse, or there's been an estrangement there. So in them circumstances, I could more understand. But I think with the resilience of people these days, some of the things that they held up their parents or grandparents for, like maybe the corporal punishment, there may be the tough love, and they're like, oh, you know what, because of that, I don't want to deal with them. Those ones to me unacceptable, inexcusable. But when it's something like obviously, like with my situation with my parents, because as you know, I probably won't deal with any of them again after what happened with my oldest son. So where before I said, like a few years ago, I said that's impossible unless they killed my children or sent me to prison forcibly. There's no way I wouldn't interact with my parents. But after what I've been through, I can fully understand why some people say, you know what, I'll leave them to the care system because it's safer and better for them that way. I can totally understand.
Yeah, I
So
think a lot of people.
it's experiencing and obviously circumstances and what's gone on. Why I think that's contributed to the rise of parents going into care homes as well as the Eurocentricity that Chloe mentioned and you've mentioned. So,
So even outside of kind of like one aspect, one cultural influence, I just think the whole premise of social engineering has really molded us in such a
mm,
way that we are unable to be prepared for the worst.
hmm.
The other thing I would like to add is the fact that everything starts from the home. The foundation is the foundation. Charity begins at home. That's the simple saying. And so, in order to tackle this on a community basis, everything has to be there has to be some sort semblance of structure and in within our respective places of abode,
Mm,
because then we know that when we're departing to go and now face bigger issues, that the house can maintain itself,
mm.
because a house divided by itself cannot
You
stand.
understand? Scripture. Mm. Now, Arnie, Adrian, you like to add anything to that?
um,
Funny enough, did you see the video of that fella? I should have sent it to you like beforehand, of the one
I
that
haven't seen it.
yeah, I'll have to send you the video. Yeah,
Yeah.
I was shocked because I thought,
It
wait,
was nasty, actually.
he can't get out of the chair, and you can see he won't lose it because 1 minute he was just looking catatonic like he weren't going to move, and next minute
Yeah,
he was
Mm,
lifting up the butter knife, and he wasn't like he was coming out of the chair. They could have easily said, "Oh, listen, why didn't you give him a plate of food? Let hold this for me," and then they could have taken it away from him. But the way they were going, like he was a serious threat, and then barking at him, instruction, pull it down, when they know he's in a care
mm,
home and they know he's got dementia, and they've been cleared. They've been cleared.
yeah,
They've been cleared
that's
of even
what I read.
assault.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's mad. They've not. There's no repercussions for them at
They
all.
just got some minor disciplinary, and so even the independent police commission, whatever they call themselves,
The
aren't
ILPC, yeah.
necessarily fit for purpose within
Mm,
that, because everything is about saving face, keeping appearances for the sake of function.
mm,
Now, it's a very when you get to the when you
mm,
now get into the nitty and the gritty of it, you'll see how
mm,
very um sticky the nuances can be,
mm,
mm,
because we're simply looking from outsiders who say that, okay, there needs to be accountability for these
mm,
crimes
mm,
that are being committed by authorities.
mm. Remember, they have that thing what we was talking about, finding enough earlier today in the studio podcast. Qualified immunity protects a lot of these institutional workers. So they're never going to be prosecuted like, say, someone like me and you, Joe Bloggs, member of the public.
Yeah, yeah,
That's basically like an invisible shield that makes them get away with the worst atrocities.
yeah. So they're saving face in order to kind of
mm,
maintain some semblance of function
Mm,
based on what their supposed mandate is, or their modus operandi is. But it's if the police was to cease to exist today, what would we replace it with?
now, to be fair,
mm.
I'd still have police, but I wouldn't have them involved
It
in
wouldn't be. It wouldn't be
misdemeanors.
better
Yeah, I wouldn't have
for
them
an
involved
English
in misdemeanors.
authority.
Only violent crime, organized crime. That's the only time I'd have police involved in them things. Apart from that, we could govern it for our own community.
Yeah,
Community support. I think so. Especially like if it's not violent crimes or organized crime, I don't think you should think police should get involved in anything else apart from that, really.
that's very true, because if they are to be involved in some capacity, why is there no training like that is appropriate to the different tasks at hand that take them out of the function of being law enforcers?
Mm,
Mm,
Because that whole catastrophe, and I would call it that, as even if I'm being hyperbolic about it, could have been in many averted in many ways. But the person who called them, for one, is obviously wasn't wearing their critical thinking cap.
Mm,
I don't know what form of desperation led them down that garden path to arrive at the conclusion that I should call the police when the police are not even equipped in any way or form to handle such situations.
mm,
But what we're seeing here is a scale wide um, um, degeneration
mm.
of the system,
Yeah, definitely.
because a system that is the government are saying, oh, it's all good, it's fine, and we're implementing reform, and they use all this terminology to feed us the pipe dream.
Mm,
But the stark reality is something that we then
mm,
have to experience firsthand, not just and be exposed to in many other ways. And so effectively they're upholding a system, a set of values, principles, laws, regulations, and policies which are antiquated.
mm,
What
mm.
does that mean? Antiquated.
Antiquated
Old.
is like behind. It's
Mm,
not. It's not necessarily with the times. It doesn't correspond with the times.
Okay. Wow.
It doesn't
So
correspond with
basically,
the matters at hand.
yeah,
You know.
it's from a different time that they're trying to.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And even then, and even and even then, at a different time, things would have been handled a lot differently. They wouldn't have been handled in such the draconian way that we're seeing unfold now.
I mean, boy, I think we're all different generation to some extent. The world we're in now, like
mm,
I'm not in my 20s. I'm not in my 30s. I'm in my
Hmm.
mid 40s.
There you go.
So my child now, she's in her early 20s.
Mm,
She's 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 like living in a different, like, it's just the times she's living in. She would have been born in 2001. I would have been born in 1979. Exactly.
that's
So
wild.
2001, 1979 has made us have a different, like what, like I've seen everything here
Yeah.
from the UK from 1990.
Mm,
That's when I entered the UK. 1990, right? It's like it's things never stay the same price. Things just changed. It never stayed at 25 pence. It's just gone up and up and up and up and up and up. So they basically, yeah, this society here, yeah, it just wants people working. They want you to work till you drop. They basically, that's their main design from what I can see.
mm,
If you can, like, you are gonna work until you can't work no more. You're gonna work, 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 work. You're not really. I don't really think that you can't live your dream life in the UK. You cannot on a 9 to 5 wage. Impossible.
Do you know something, right? You know what I realised from what you're saying? Is that it's not even to say about society's change or anything like that. It's just that what are you passing on to your children that was passed on to you? Nothing's being passed on now. You know,
mm,
people are really surprised that my son can mix with like people that old from the West Indies to people that are young from the West Indies, people that are here, because what my grandmother passed on to my mum passed on to me. My mum tried to pass it on to my siblings. They was never interested because that's all old fashioned. Do you get me? That's all old fashioned. That's rubbish. That's back in the day. So nothing is being passed on. So now, even my son, when I had my first granddaughter, he said, Mum, you have to have her every weekend. I want you to raise her how I was. And I remember she said, oh, you make lemonade, you get I know how to make lemonade, you get the limes, you get this. I said, how do you know? She goes, because my daddy told me. I said, your dad told you how to make lemonade? Yeah. And I know that she's going to be just like her dad when she goes back home and is able to go and pick some limes off a tree and go in there. She's going to love that. And they're going to be so surprised because children her age are into like the sodas and the modern stuff. Same thing with my son. People are surprised that my son was eating the things he was eating when he went back home because that was the way I was raised. That's the way he was raised. But if nothing's being passed on, you're always going to think it's a different time. The only reason why it's a different time, they always talk about generational wealth. They don't talk about generational health, generational mental health, generational culture. Nobody talks about these things.
That's right. That's right.
So
That's right. That's
when
right.
you see that
Serious.
I was there looking after my mum, but I see them looking after my grandmother, you know. But my mum expected, and I think that's one thing that I find that fails people. It's just that they don't pass on any information or any. For instance, I'm finding out about people supposed to know that basic things that I learned when I was a child from the West Indies, and now I'm coming up. People don't know that. It's like basic things like women, as I'm the only woman on the planet at the moment. But it's like when you come to how women wash their private parts, it's a whole new thing now. And
Yeah,
I'm like, it's like
I
when you
know. I
talk to,
know. People are making
you
money
know,
of the basics things that's supposed to
yeah.
be known by
But
the family and taught by the family.
it's like things like that. Like I remember there's a young man that I support, and I support his business. He's doing great for the English people, but it is not for me. I agree with what he's doing. And I remember he had a sale on, and everybody knows me. I love a sale. So I thought, you know what? I'm gonna go and support what he's doing. I'm gonna order this stuff in the sale. And I come back, I was so vexed. I paid so much money when it came. It was all packaged up nice. There's nothing wrong with the goods. It's just that it was bush tea from back home.
Okay.
It was like £40.
Mm.
And they've gone into it and they've seen like this is good for you, that is good for you. And I was just like, I can't believe. And I went to my friend who got the same background. She was like from Dominica and she came back and she goes back, so she knows. And I was like, can you believe that? Look at this. Can you believe that I bought this? She goes, Jennifer, she showed me the identical thing. She goes, when I go home, I pick the leaves, dry them out like you said, I blend them. And I said, I couldn't be, I was supporting him. And I could, things like moringa. Moringa was never something big to me because I was like, hey, we got one of them trees growing back home. Like, do you know what I mean? Like simple things. And I'm looking around me now and I'm looking around at social media and everything. And like where the culture and the heritage is not being passed on, people are inventing our heritage and selling it back to us.
Yeah, selling back to us at a premium.
It's just like I was making curry and somebody said about burning. I said, I've never burned curry in my life. Now everybody start, you got to burn down the curry before you. I've never done it. I'm never going to start doing it because I've never seen it doing. But people are now looking at me like, hey, you're supposed to be doing that. That's not right. Who told you to do that? And you always hear them say, oh, well, they said. And if I said that they told me to do this, I'm talking about my grandparents, my aunties, my uncle. Now it's somebody on social media, or they don't even know who it is, but because social media is doing it, they're all doing it. And it's certain things like that I realized that. Oh, then for instance, somebody put up some meal. I was watching it today. I can't remember where it was. It was on one of the social media, and I've thought, let me have a look. And somebody put up about this Jamaican meal that they put in, and they put in this, and they talk about this pie. No, it was mac and cheese, and I was just like, mac and cheese ain't Jamaican. And when I read the comments, right, all the comments was like, "Get that out of there, dash red that man, mac and cheese," and I was like, "Macaroni pie is Bayesian, but mac
Yeah,
and cheese nowhere near Jamaica."
yeah. No, it's
You
not
guys
not that I
mad.
know. I only heard that from Americans, and when they come over here, my mum
Exactly.
started to make it.
And for instance,
I never heard no one in Jamaica talk about that when I was growing up.
Mm.
Mm,
the way my mum died, right, when my
Mm.
siblings, I say kill off my mum because it was because of them. I remember some of my friends said to me, "Oh, you having a 9 night?" I said, "No, it's not a Bayesian thing. That's a Jamaican thing. Bayesians don't have 9 nights. People from Barbados don't have 9 night." My sister, who didn't want to know anything about her culture,
yeah,
who is now trying to find her culture,
yeah,
would you believe? I got my mom's body. She's having a separate 9 nights because where my mom had Jamaican friends,
yeah,
my sister swear blind that, oh, she's not. Auntie Jenny's not going to have one for my mom. I'm going to have
yeah,
one for my mom. But I'm still in touch with all my elders.
yeah. So you
I
know,
was phoning all my elders like, listen, right, I might got to organize my mom's thing. I haven't organized a 9 night because I don't know nothing about it. They said, no, Jennifer. They goes, it's not a thing from Barbados. It's a thing, it's a Jamaican thing. And
mm,
you know how many people was like, why didn't you have a 9 nights? It's not a Bayesian thing. Really? Well, I didn't know that. I said, you ever been to a Bayesian 9 nights? No. But my sister had one
mm,
because she didn't know no better.
yeah, you know,
Because
and the influence of the people around there.
exactly,
No, you
but
know what they probably think now? They probably think, oh, it must be a black thing. But I
and
swear
it's
there's a
not a black
history of
thing.
it connected to Africa. You know? Let me look.
It
Because I
is.
always wondered why Jamaicans do that and others West Indians don't. I said they must be because
Yeah,
we're not indigenous to Jamaica, so it must be something that we kind of
it's an
remembered from our
African
ancestral
thing.
past.
Yeah. It's just like when for instance, like when the way my mum bathed my son as a baby, and then I done it to my grandchildren. Like, you hang them from one arm, then one leg, then the other leg, then you might pull them up by their neck. And I remember doing it to my grandchildren. I said to them, "Mum, listen, right, you didn't stop me, How come you said nothing? I'm there manhandling your child, slapping its elbows and shaking it up one arm, upside down." And she said, because that's your culture. I don't know nothing about that. That's your culture. And it's only somebody put it up, somebody had put it up on one of the platforms about it being barbaric. Oh, look at this African thing. And I was like, that's where we got
Mm.
it from.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
you know
I just
something,
looked
right?
now. It said Nine Night, also known as Dead Yard, is a funeral tradition originating from the Asante people of West Africa. Saying that Ghanaian, Asante.
Yeah, that's Ghanaian.
Yeah. So I see. Yeah, and roots from the Akan culture during the day nine period
Mm.
of observing the dead, known as Dabone. During this time, friends and family come together to the home of the deceased. They share their condolences and memories while singing hymns and eating food together. See? So it's African. I knew it was. Because there's no way
Yeah.
that it'll only go to Jamaica and not anywhere else. It's just that we've kept up the tradition.
Kept
Mm,
Yeah,
up
but it was
the
never a Bayesian
tradition.
tradition.
mm, See?
Mm.
Mm.
So I'm
Yeah,
not going to start an African tradition now
of
just because
course.
the Jamaicans are
Yeah,
doing it. You know what
yeah,
I mean?
of course. Yeah, I
I
can
got to
understand
stick
that.
with what was passed down
I
to
passed
me.
down.
And
Yeah.
too many people, they're chopping and changing. That's
Changing.
where
Yeah, of course.
you get old people put in a home.
Yeah.
you know, and you can tell
Mm.
because but my grandmother, when she was sick and she was gonna die, she lived in a little wooden house. She lived there all of her life, raised her children, whatever. Her daughter come along, and this was what I mean about every generation trying to be modern.
Mm.
And her daughter came along and is like, I got a big house.
Yeah.
I'm not no, I can't have you not looking after my mum in this house. She didn't have a problem when her mother was living in it. She took my grand to this great big house. But if you see the room was like you could have like ride a bicycle around the room, and all there was in it was a great big bed with my grandmother in the bed. I said, and she passed soon afterwards, and I said, I honestly believe that if they'd left her in the
Mm,
little wooden house,
Give it
because
a
in the
laugh.
little wooden house lived her grandchildren, her great grandchildren, and her great great grandchildren, and they were always climbing all over, and she loved all of that. But no, her daughter came and took her, and I thought to my and like it went from before you used to leave them in the home. Then she took her, and then from there we noticed that they started putting people in homes
Mm,
because they just wanted them out of the home. You know why? Because the
mm.
homes what the old people live in is more valuable to people than the homes they are going to.
Yeah, I know. It's terrible.
Nobody cares about
Mm.
the home that they're going to. They
Mm,
care about the house that you're going to leave
Leave
behind.
behind. Yeah, so they can get a
Mm.
dead left. I know. But saying that, this time soon out. So I'm gonna wrap up and sum up.
Yes.
Thanks for coming, everyone, today.
Thank you.
Another episode of Equal Start. Where there's people, there's power.
Nice
Justice
meeting
in
you
our
all.
time.
Yep.
Good
Thanks a lot.
night.